All right, let's see. Can y'all hear me? I hope so, because this is my first time doing a YouTube live. Okay. If you can't hear me, just let me know. I'm gonna wait like a few seconds and then we'll get started. I think I see 2 people in here. I don't know if that's updated or not, but either way, for the people who are here, thank you for coming. There are a few links in the chat. One of them is letting me know that you came today. If you just fill it out, it's just your name and your email, and then a multiple choice question that lets you know, which lets you put which session that you are in today, just so I can send you follow-ups and access to this live. I'm pretty sure this will be up for some time, so I don't know yet. We'll see. Anyways, I'm Naomi Olatayo, the Brand Priestess. Welcome to session 1 of my 3-day series, The Art of Crossing Thresholds. Today, we will be covering why you collapse after receiving clarity, and we'll be building the foundation for self-trust. I am open to questions as we're live, so if you have anything that you would like to bounce off of me, if you want me to clarify, just let me know. I'll try to pay attention because it's kind of small, I'm not gonna lie, but I'll pay attention, so I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to do this live is because I recognized, well, 2 reasons. The first reason was because I recognized that it's very important that we understand how to cross thresholds. I know a few people last month, they came to something called the call to governance, where I but I walked them through the process of fully consenting to their vision, their governance size vision. And I realized that every single threshold I offer, every single thing I do is a threshold, right? And I recognize that if I don't make it very plain how to cross thresholds, I'll be continuing to share things, and it's almost as if you would need me. And the thing is, I don't want to be needed. I want you to be here, and I appreciate you being here, but I also want you to be able to go off into the world, whether you're in proximity or not, and be able to meet your vision and the thresholds it's leading you for immediately and without hesitation and with confidence. Hello to everyone who just joined. There are some links in the chat. The first one is just letting me know that you are here. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Yeah, letting me know that you're here, and then we'll go over the other ones later. But yeah, it's very important to know how to receive clarity, receive revelation, to receive instruction without it collapsing you, without it distressing you, without it overwhelming you. Because again, outside of me offering these thresholds, outside of me offering these opportunities to, or like bringing you to a point of decision, you still have to live your life, and you're going to be coming into contact with these decisions often. And I want to collapse that time between you recognizing what you're supposed to do next and you crossing it. And so as soon as these things come up towards you, it's natural. Because again, I don't want to only just encourage you. I want to make you resilient, I want to make you sound, and I want to make sure that you're structurally resourced enough to be able to actually execute your vision. Hello everyone who said hi in the comments. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I was also saying, if you have any questions, if you have anything that you would like me to stop on, just put it in the chat, and I'm paying attention best I can. So, but yeah. Anyways, When it comes to being an originator, when it comes to being a governor, it's all threshold based. And it's according to consent and revelation. When we're so used to, as a society, as people, we're so used to having to work for things, we're so used to having to strive for things, that when you recognize yourself in my content and you've been able to recognize yourself as an originator, when you're able to recognize yourself as someone who is a governor, it's almost like the impulse is to work for it. The impulse is to try to perfect yourself, to be worthy of it. And the thing is that works for so many things, but it does not work for that. And this is why when you approach a threshold, you shut down. This is why when you when you receive that clarity, when you receive that revelation, you shut down, you get quiet, you know? So let me properly define a threshold, because I want you to be very sure about what it is when you encounter it. In a lot of ways, this is even a threshold, right? So a threshold is an internal moment of irreversible decision that manifests outwardly and brings you into direct contact with consequence and responsibility. So the most top of mind example of a threshold is my governance mapping session to receive your realm. How to discern the realm you're meant to author. The reason why it's a threshold is because it brings you directly into, it's an irreversible decision that brings you into direct contact with the consequence and responsibility of knowing your realm. Another threshold was my live transmission, the Call to Governance, which I hosted on January 31st. By the end of that call, I believe there are 9 of us in there where we were able to fully consent to the office and vision of governance. That's irreversible. That's something that you cannot go back from. You can't unknow what you know. Those of you who came for that transmission, what they've learned in there, they could not unknow it. Another threshold is getting married. And depending on who you are, it could be a legal threshold or also both a spiritual threshold. Giving birth, becoming a mother, launching something into the collective fields, or even just consenting to receive revelation about what you're building. Those are all considered thresholds. And the key point is it's irreversible, and that is what makes it consequential. Things change that you cannot reverse because you're now obligated towards it. There are consequences towards it. And so for a lot of you here today, you've received clarity, instructions, dreams, and aligned actions so repeatedly, or maybe you recognize what you have already received and you've convinced yourself out of it, and you've been stalling, hesitating, shutting down. You're just frozen. You just don't feel safe crossing, and you may not even recognize that this is a point of crossing. The thing is that we have a very weird we have a really weird relationship with responsibility. This whole world is built off of, I guess, responsibility or outcomes or consequence that has been passed on to somebody else. I mean, look at it with Trump and this current administration. Look at what is happening all over the world in Mexico and Palestine, where people are making decisions where in a healthy society and in a healthy world, they would but they would be the ones to bear the consequence. But in the life that we're living in, we bear the consequences. And a lot of us are still bearing the consequences. And then there are a lot of us where we may have grown up and we were parentified, we were shamed, we were coerced into caretaking, whatever it is. So our relationship with consequence and responsibility has just been so weird. And so we end up in this weird space where we just don't feel safe crossing, where we recognize that this is a moment of crossing for me where I have to be decisive and I have to make a decision and I have to actually cross and give my consent to this thing, but I don't trust myself. Or you just feel nervous and heavy, and you just kind of reject the responsibility, the accountability, and you feel the sense of exposure because the plausible deniability just gets removed, right? Because at least you can say, I didn't know, or I don't know what to do yet. You know what I mean? So there is something that you've been given to do next. There is something that you've been given and you have not done it. And by the end of these 3 days, and hopefully even by today, I want to get you to a place where you recognize exactly what it is that you need to give yourself to cross. And not even what you need to give to yourself, but the confidence to approach thresholds consciously. So now it's no longer you just immediately shut down, you don't know what's going on, but you can cross it because, again, you can only materialize as fast as your ability to decide. Thresholds are moments of decision. When you're slow or you're hesitant in deciding, you are putting numbers on the clock for how long it takes. And I guess the timing, does it matter? Yes and no. It matters because there are real stakes on the line. There are real opportune moments for you to align with. And a lot of times you can't align yourself with it because you've been hesitating. Does it not matter? Depends on who you are and what you want out of life. For me specifically, I believe I've executed more in the past year than I have in my entire life because I didn't know how to meet moments of thresholds decisively. And so sometimes it would take me weeks after shutting down, after being stressed out, after, just struggling. You know what I mean? And so after I learned and I finally shortened the time, I've been able to meet those thresholds immediately. And so there are certain things that I've been looking for in my life that I've been able to come into contact with because time is no longer a barrier. Time can become a gatekeeper for a lot of things. I know we talk a lot about making the world, building a world that our children can live in and becoming an unprecedented leader. And I just also want to make the point is that as much as this works for your governance work, for your leadership work, this is also just in general. This is also something, what's the significance of putting, okay. I'm not going to answer that question. But yeah, and that's rude. Anyways, it also is great for, it's great for just everyday life and everything that you're doing. Sometimes time we use as a crutch. Time is only as relevant as we allow it to be, outside of specific laws that we are governed by according to time. But yeah. Anyways, the point I want to make is that you don't need to be ready. You don't need to be perfect in order to meet these moments. A lot of times it's easy to receive an idea. Let's say you receive an idea on Monday, then you think, oh, I have to do all this research and I have to get things together and get things in order. The point isn't the doing. A threshold doesn't require for you to do. The threshold requires for you to decide. And that is not doing. That is consent. That is allowing. You don't need to prepare. And that's the thing about perfectionism is that it keeps you in this unfinished loop. The circuit is supposed to complete because thresholds are locational. It means that you've reached a place of alignment between your identity, your vision, your ability to see. You've reached a convergence of revelation, whatever it is, to where this threshold can present to you and you can decide something, right? It's locational. It's a point. It's an actual. I don't know how to explain this in like shorter terms, but just follow me. It's a location. You are meeting something here, right? And so when you meet that thing right here, and instead of going forward over it, you start going this way, and trying to justify moving forward, it just keeps the energy of that portal access open. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to receiving, whether it's clarity, revelation, vision, an idea, an invention, whatever it is, of course, it only comes by receiving. These are the things that you need to master in order to meet moments of clarity with decisiveness, without collapse or without hesitation. The first thing is surrender, which is allowing responsibility to meet you. It doesn't mean just being frivolous and not in a Christian way, right? I mean it in a way of allowing responsibility to meet you. Do you trust that you won't collapse underneath that when you are met? Do you trust that you won't collapse underneath it? I have a question. What is the fear when you surrender? Think of it as like, whew, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Think of it as like when you're swimming. Phew, sorry, y'all. Think about it as when you're swimming. For me, one of the hardest things for me learning, can I swim? I can swim good enough. As I've been learning how to swim, one of the hardest things for me is believing that I won't drown. I don't believe that the water will actually hold me. And it's very similar to when learning to surrender just in general. For example, my most recent threshold is my governance mapping session. And the promise is collapse time. It's not that you will receive the full revelation of your own governance. And so I've recognized that a few of you guys have taken that and hesitated almost to even open your mind to receiving more in terms of your governance. And sometimes it's just because you don't trust yourself to even make yourself locatable to receive it, because the moment of meeting can sometimes be so overwhelming. I know for me, in the past, even recently, like sometimes when I'm receiving so much, oh, thank you. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed and I get so drained almost by what I'm channeling or receiving that I kind of stop myself from receiving anymore. It's just too much almost. And so I had to learn that my resistance to surrender was my fear of being met by what I needed to meet to cross that threshold. The next thing that you need to be able to cross thresholds is stillness, and that is becoming locatable. So if you're always trying to prove yourself, if you can't just be still, you're not going to be able to be found. Remember, thresholds are a location. Thresholds require for you to meet it and for you to be met. So if you're always trying to justify yourself, trying to work to receive things, it's just you won't be able to be present to receive what it is. So stillness looks different for everyone. It could be meditating while you're walking, sitting, showering. I know for me, showering and working out are my two favorite forms of meditation. And then a more reflective kind of meditation is for me taking walks. Sometimes stillness can look like reading. Sometimes that stillness can just look like taking a nap. Sometimes the stillness looks like you just having a great day out, having fun, whatever. It doesn't have to look a type of way. It's just about the mechanism of it all. Are you able to be located in this moment of decision? The next thing that you need is context. We all receive vision, wisdom, and revelation according to our vantage points. And according to those vantage points, things can look like puzzle pieces or fragments or just random things. And so that comes in the forms of laws, venture ideas, expounded pieces of visions, whatever. The point of thresholds is to make sure that you give yourself enough containment to receive, to give yourself enough structured revelation. And again, that can look like my governance mapping session. That can look like doing market research. That can look like reaching out to a mentor. It just looks like context. This is about informed consent. When you are more aware of what you're crossing, what you're consenting to, your nervous system calms down and it becomes less dramatic. Like for me, I remember, what's a good example? I think for me, governance is something that I've received for a long time, but I didn't fully get the bulk of it until later, right? But I had no idea what I was pursuing. Like I didn't have someone to say, Naomi, this is who you are, what you're doing, what you're building. I had to stumble around and figure it out. And so it took me so long to recognize that I couldn't fully consent because I lacked context. So, especially if you're a governor, you might not have that context. This is your context though. Understanding that those moments of confusion, this is a threshold. Also, if you are a governor, if you are someone who is originating something completely unprecedented, then you also have the thresholds that I offer often. You don't have to stumble around into clarity. I also offer structured revelation so that you can have the kind of context that makes crossing thresholds safer and just a lot more peaceful. Anyways, everything is already within you. The point is drawing it out from within, from your womb and from your spirit. If you tried to receive something, if you try to receive something that you are meant to originate outside of yourself, you would not be originating. When it comes to being an originator, a lot of the thresholds that you will be crossing is allowing something to exist. One hurdle for me that I faced for so long from keeping my work from existing was because I needed money. I couldn't allow myself to be still, and I didn't trust myself enough to surrender because I was too busy proving myself because I thought that I needed money first. Things like that you put in the way of getting forward. And the funny thing is that you don't realize that crossing those thresholds collapse the time between where you are now and the wealth that is inevitable because of your function and your purpose and what you're building. Everything is within you. And again, specifically for those with governance, those who are originating something, that hesitation, that unwillingness to be still, whatever it is, find that recognition. Well, recognize it, I'm trying to say. Understand it, because again, what is trying to be expressed through you is thresholded. It's through your consent and willingness. If you've been wondering why you've been feeling like you're in the same space for so long, it's most likely because you have not consented. After you consent, you will notice that you were never blocked. You just haven't decided. Anyways, if you have any questions, I am open to answering before I get to my last half and end this live. Session 2 and 3 are same time tomorrow and Saturday. By the end of this, in the same way I asked the attendees of my January 31st transmission, I will be asking for you to take that irrevocable next step. That next step that you've had, that revelation, whatever it is that you have been sitting on, because whether it's fear, your willingness to surrender, whatever it is, I don't want to build a group of people, or I don't want to gather people around me who can't decide, because when you can't decide, you won't build. And I want you all to be able to take this vision and make it real. I'm very tired of living in a world where vision is just a fantasy. It's a place you escape to. Imagine if it was actually real. You know what I mean? Like, how great would it be for us to still be young and at least begin to experience the fruit of the realms that we're building, or even just the businesses that we've been dreaming of forever. Like, how amazing would it be to be able to experience those things? You know what I mean? I think we deserve that, and the world deserves that too. But anyways, Of course, my governance mapping session is available until March 14th. Inside, you will receive the proper altitude, the structured revelation, and the context for the realm that you're building and its architecture. You won't just understand your realm. It won't just collapse the time between knowing your governor and knowing and being able to embody your full jurisdiction. You'll be able to understand the physics of realm authorship from top to bottom. I break it down explicitly, so it will be served to you as a map that you need to build everything that you are building as a governor. Anyways, again, if you haven't already, just let me know in the link titled "Let me know you're joining today," so I could send you any details, updates, etc. Also, in response to what you've received here today, I invite you to respond with an offering to what I call the altar of resonance and response. It's optional, but it's a form of reciprocity that I like to open up. So if you have been impacted by me today and you would like to respond in the form of an offering, the link is also in the chat and is also in the description. But anyways, I thank y'all for coming, and I will see you in session 2 tomorrow, which is titled "How to Move Forward Before You Feel Ready, Holding the Threshold and Crossing Without Fear." And over the next 24 hours, I want you to think about what it is that you may have been stalling on. I want you to also think about your patterns of meeting thresholds. I want you to think about that, because tomorrow I want us to be able to dismantle it in a way where all fear, all hesitation is gone. Anyways, thank y'all for coming today. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bye.